Ahoy hoy everybody, I'm NerdFred, and today we're going to talk about the lore of Valkia the Gorequeen, the bringer of glory. Now if you're unfamiliar with Warhammer lore, you quickly notice that they take a lot of real names and real stuff like that and just like put into the lore, like her spear for example, called Sleipnir. Well, you know, it's a reference to Sleipnir, eight-legged horse. That's, you know, is in Norse mythology. But, anyway, she just has that sort of throughout the story, by the way. You don't need to think about where she gets that. Now, we're going to do a little bit of a TLDR on this lore because she has actual books dedicated to her, right? So, there's a lot of stuff to go into. So here's the TLDR. So her story starts in the Norscan wastes. Cold, bitter, angry. Norscan wastes. Her mother dies fairly early on. Her father, Merok, big strong chieftain, and they name her Lilleven, which if you're Scandinavian will know it just means little friend. It's not a name or anything like that. This is what you call somebody who's, you know, a little pal or something. Lilleven, that's her name. So that's cool, I guess. She belongs to a nomadic tribe called Schwarzwolf, which is just German for black wolf. I mean, that kind of makes sense if you think about the naming schemes of Warhammer still, but you know. Her early life is pretty difficult, and it's a lot of like weird little politics and stuff like that. And you can kind of tell that there was an author tasked to do this, and they had to bring nuance to somebody called the Gorequeen. Her mother dies when she's very young. Her father wanting sons as well to also lead the tribe because all the other kids that he had with Valkia's mother don't make it because, you know, stillborns and all that. He remarries a strong warrior called Kara, who was one of Valkia's friends. They, you know, grew pretty close together. But Kara also saw that she could kind of get close to the chieftain if she palled with Valkia as well. Now, Valkia does, you know, grow to love her as well as the mother she never knew. I should actually also mention that Valkia has killed the first person already at this point, like at the age of 10, essentially. And Kara is a little bit older than her, but not by a loss. So anyway, Kara has a couple of kids with Merok, and now Valkia is threatened, right? She later on finds a lover called Radek. Now Radek is moral when you see it with Norskins, I suppose, because he's all like, oh, Valkia, you can't kill kids just to be the chieftainess, right? You can't just take over the tribe by killing kids. There's some moral line, and somewhere you can't just cross that. And yeah, they keep from murdering kids. So +1 for them morally, I suppose. So at this point, Valkia's dad is not in favor from everybody in the tribe. Partly he's taking criticism from Valkia almost daily. He's been sick, so he's visually deteriorated, right? He's not looking as big and strong anymore. And to top it all off, he finds a bunch of women and children and farmers on the frozen ice, and he decides to take them in because they're not going to survive otherwise. Wow. I mean, that's just unforgivable, isn't it? And this is seen as a pretty big sign of weakness. But it also, you know, kind of shows and demonstrates the vicious cycle of Norska, that you're either a farmer, get raided, and then when you're raided, you flee, and you you become a raider, I suppose. So they get taken in there. It's a vicious cycle. And that's not good at all. The tribe isn't having like the best of times either. Kids are born with mutations. There's sickness. There's not a lot of stuff to hunt, weird enough. People are hungry. You know, they're not getting a lot from the raids, etc., etc. Things are not great. Radek, however, being the moral Norscan that he is, thinks that, well, Valkia should probably is going to challenge Merok, but I will spare her having to kill her own father. So he stabs him in the back and just, you know, plain murders him by a betrayal. When Valkia finds this out, she gets enraged because not from the betrayal or that she spared him and that her, you know, the burden of having to duel, but because he stole her kill. And this kind of will signify a lot of like her. There's not a lot of character development from this point on. But I'll just say that straight away. This is very much how the rest of her story goes. So she slits his throat, straps him up, outside of the village, the elements and birds will just clean on that carcass constantly. Yeah, that's the end of Radek, her first lover. Now, she sees this as a chance, right? She's not dumb or anything like that. She's fairly intelligent. So she sees this as a chance to just go up and say like, oh, we have been betrayed, and use, you know, and to trick her people, basically. That's, oh, well, Merok had a plan for the farmers and everything that he found. He was going to separate the weak from the strong, and the tribe would become stronger, etc., etc. So she then lets the farmers know that they indeed have a choice. They can either join up, be raiders, or die. They will kill them and chuck them out into the wastes. And so the tribe grows a little bit larger. And it's not all peaceful from here. Oh no. She goes out and she kills everyone that opposes her, anyone she thinks is weak. Kada, her stepmom, drinks poison at this point and dies from that. Well, just drinks it from grief, I suppose. The only one that survives from her, you know, half siblings is a half brother called Edan. And Edan gets taken in by the local shaman because, well, he's been stuck in the hut with the corpse's mother for several days without anyone noticing. So that's not one of the happy points of the story, I suppose. But that's where he ends up. Valkia then finds the marauders that actually was hunting the villagers. Now, this is a band of marauders called the Bloody Hands. And they seem cool. They follow someone called Karneth, and they follow, like Valkia's Svartwolves, they follow somebody called Axefather, and seemingly two totally different gods. Totally. They seem to have a lot of common values. So that's neat. So they start a little parlay. The Bloody Hands sends the chieftain sons Daron in for diplomacy. In the negotiations, they hit some rough patches, we can say. At one point, Daron thinks, hey, she looks pretty bored. Maybe she wants to duel to first blood. And, you know, it's just, you know, the first person who bleeds. Valkia gets angry, obviously, because she's now a chieftainess, and this dude just wants to duel for some godforsaken reason, right? I guess all gods are godforsaken, but, you know, anyway. Valkia also decides that to really spice these duels up, this friendly sportsman thing is, you know, the spice of murder, always. Daron only managed to stop her when he goes, no, wait, you're Axefather and Karneth, they're the same gods, we're cool. Creating the whole Martha thing from Batman vs. Superman once again. And after that,
why did you say that name?
They pal around a little bit more. They, I wouldn't say fall for each other really, but they do hit it off somewhat, and they get married. Valkia gets Daron very drunk, and at a knife point sleeps with him. And after that, they have two twin daughters called Bellona and Eris. Now, after the first really harsh winter that Valkia has to lead, she notices that it's a lot of small decisions, weird politics, you know, small bands roving that is trying to assert dominance in the area. Very, very like minor things that really bore, and she does not like actually leading a tribe in that regard. But what is there to be bored about? Daron feels that they should have a son as well, not just twin daughters. Valkia basically says like, nah, we got two daughters, that's fine enough. We're not gonna have more kids. And it's partly because the childbirth was pretty rough on her, and because she is just a mean person as well. She wants to see him suffer a little bit more. He can't really, like, Daron is not a good person. Don't think that I'm taking sides here. But Daron feels that he really should have a son, and the son should take over the tribes, right? Because right now it's Bloody Hands, and the Svartwolves are basically, you know, they're cooperating, they have an alliance, so they work together very, very well. So basically she just tells him, we have two healthy daughters, you should just be happy about this. Later on, they are doing a ritual to bless them for the Chaos Gods, and he tries to stop it. He says that only Karneth, or Korn, is worthy being blessed by. The other gods are below him anyway. she gets so angry that she straight up, you know, murders him for character consistency, I suppose. She also yells at him basically that, oh, well, we can just see who's below who once you meet them. Now, Kalir, the leader of the Bloody Hands and the father of Daron, dies shortly after on the battlefield as well, after he has, you know, accused her of murdering his son. So now the two tribes are just one. Now it's just the Schwarzwolves because she inherits, you know, that tribe as well. All right, that's essentially the boring part of this. Now, later on, while she's ruling, a very handsome stranger comes in. He's slender, has immense strength, silver hair, deep amethyst eyes, super duper kissable lips. I cannot stress how kissable these lips are written, okay? Not stress this. They talk for a bit, and she thinks she's like a southerner or something like that that's just been lost. But he's like very, very strong, really strong for somebody so slender. But he's actually a Norscan. Wow. And he thinks she's really pretty. Like a super scary and sexy Wolverine kind of thing. I think it's described as like a feral beauty. He then shows himself as Demon Prince of Slaanesh. Super cool. You know, being a Demon Prince, that's pretty high up in the Chaos hierarchy. And says, hey, you should stop being, you know, hanging around here and you should just join my harem. That's pretty cool. You'll have fun and power all the time. That's cool. But Valkia is a chieftainess for a pretty large, successful tribe that doesn't have all the bad parts and the rough luck that they used to have under Marok. She's changed the fortunes. You know, it's good in her tribe now. I say good, you know, they're doing well. They're not doing good, I suppose. So she gets very angry, and he tries to compromise with, hey, they'll have a duel in the blood pits. And if he wins, she'll have to give everything up, follow him. If she wins, he'll just leave, never come back. And that they can do it tomorrow. That's, you know, at noon or something. But she's like, nah, we'll do it now. I'll fight you. So they start dueling. The Demon Prince is called Locafax. Locafax? Losifax. And, you know, he's cool. He's good at fighting. He can even use magic to avert her blows. They duel for 1 day and 1 night. She manages to use just anime rage and inner strength to not succumb to fatigue. Now, if you're not unfamiliar with like duels or like MMA match stuff like that, usually you have like 1 to 2 minutes of boxing for 1 round, and it goes up to like 5 minutes. And then if you're like really, really good at it, and you know, used to box or do matches like in the 50s, it would be like 15 minutes. And that's like really, really hard. And these dudes go at it for like 1 day and 1 night, which is, it's pretty Warhammer, I suppose. I guess because of belief and magic. So after 1 day and 1 night, it's proven that Warhammer Fantasy power levels are roughly as bad as Warhammer 40k ones, and Valkia wins versus this Demon Prince of Slaanesh. She bounds his head on her shield, and she vows that to take it to Khorne's realm, to put it on the skull pile. You know, skulls for the skull throne, because that's what all the cool kids do. The coolest kids, they put them on like the actual skull pile personally. So that's nice. Now, Losifax's fancy head isn't really dead. He basically just goes like, well, you can try, but I mean, my followers and the followers of my god will try to stop you every single part of the way. It's pretty far to Khorne's realm if you want to go there, to the blood god. So she assembles the most devout followers and she heads off. Among her followers are Cormac. Now, Cormac is a cool dude. He's like a bro, essentially, right? He's one of the most loyal people you can ever find. During this journey, the entire warband just gets whittled down. It's not a good time, right? They get attacked all the time. They don't have any replenishment rate, so you know, they just constantly lose stuff. Even Cormac loses an arm to a mountain lioness. And he basically just goes like, no, still good. It's not my axe-wielding arm. It's fine. And as everybody else dies, Valkia tries to get Cormac to go back. To slay everybody, well, that was left behind, that basically betrayed them. Now, in fact, she actually orders that several times. But he doesn't really listen, because Cormac is a bro. And he sure as hell won't leave her. He won't leave anyone. Like Sam and Frodo, they venture to Mount Skull Throne. I mean, if Sam and Frodo were like, you know, desperate crackheads with knives and a religious message at a gas station parking lot at 2 in the morning. But even Cormac dies on this journey to Mount Skull Throne. Gets eaten alive by celestial demons while screaming prayers to Khorne, which, to be fair, is pretty metal, but it also shows that, you know, follows chaos isn't gonna probably have a life that is good, you know. Valkia uses this opportunity to climb the stairs to the final portal leading into Khorne's realm, where she can finally get rid of the skull. But she also gets killed by celestial demons at the final goddamn staircase. Now, Khorne gets so mad. It's said that the entire realm just shook with his roar, and he uses powers, plot changes, last-minute rewrites. He revives her, takes her soul, molds it to something better. Now, this is actually how you make a demon princess, or prince even. You take out the soul, you make it into magic, and you make it a little bit more like a demon. And he molds that soul into something even cooler. Legs like a bloodletter, super cool horns, wings that can fly. Horn's eyes, this is the ultimate waifu. And so she becomes a demon princess. I know, like, there's sources saying that she's a champion, and some of them saying she's a demon princess. But this is her canon story. Like, this is how you make a demon prince or princess. This is how they are. And that's basically, there's more sources now saying that she's a demon princess than a champion, because a champion wouldn't be able to survive what she does next, which is basically sit around in Khorne's realm, just fighting constantly, being revived and killing constantly for about 10 years. Now, after 10 years, she finally comes out of the realms. She has a new shield as thanks from Khorne for the head of Losifax. Khorne binds his soul into her shield as an eternal prison. She gets the Scarlet Armor, which is constantly drenched in blood. Makes people a little bit hesitant to fight her, because, you know, even if you're fighting and you see somebody who's like being a little blood fountain from their armor, you're gonna like stop for a second, I suppose. And still her spear, Sleipnir. The spear Sleipnir she's basically had for the entire story. I can't remember if there's any part where she actually gets that, but she's just always had that, essentially. Now, as she goes out of Khorne's realm, Cormac's corpse is still there. His spirit has hung around just for 10 years. Because, well, it doesn't want to leave Valkia still. And it's angry, wants vengeance. So she goes there, carves some runes into his skull and hearts, everything like that. And the corpse stands up after 10 years. Totally not necromancy, by the way. Totally not. And she asks him, do you want vengeance? Or do you want peaceful oblivion at last? Cormac basically just goes like, yeah, I want vengeance, obviously. So she just revives him. He gets new cool armor. He becomes a champion of chaos. He gets his arm back even. She summons a bunch of bloodletters, smashes them into one thing, just makes that into a giant axe. She then summons a juggernaut he can ride on. Nice. I mean, like, it's sweet stuff. And a champion, just one tier underneath being a demon princess. Very cool. It's a good upgrade, honestly, for Cormac. And she now returns to the mortal world with her new friendos. She's gathering up beastmen and whatever tribe she can find, essentially. She discovers that her old tribe is now whack. Edan, her half-brother that was spared, that she couldn't kill that fateful night. is now leading the tribe in more in like everything else than name, basically. He got everybody to not just follow Khorne, but all the gods, and they actually settled down, became farmers. This is for somebody who's followed Khorne and is now like basically the bride of Khorne is very, very bad, right? So she goes there and she does what anyone who's seen their tribe now led astray for 10 years, being on the off path. Her one of the twin daughters she had, one of them was poisoned by Edon as well. And yeah, only Aerys still alive. So she does what any mother coming back to her tribe would do, and that is to fight and kill everybody. Now don't worry, Aerys who is the chieftainess of the tribe, just fights her, still thinking like, wow, she's pretty good. I mean, she's not as strong as Valkia by any means, but you know, for a mortal, she fights really goddamn well. So she's like, oh yeah, don't worry, daughter, I will reward you for fighting with such valor. You know, the reward is just taking her skull to the skull throne. So I'm not sure she's a good mother at this point, honestly, of the story. She also rips the head off her half-brother Edon. Her previous tribe is now gone, and that was her ascension. Cool, right? So what does she do after this? Well, I'll tell you. Well, there's two things of note that I think, and it's one of them is going out to fight for, well, to help the Chaos Champion Botvar, who is fighting the dwarven hold of Karak Gulg. Now, Karak Gulg is a place that I have searched the maps for, and I don't really know where that is, honestly, unless it's like on the Warhammer 3 maps, and I just completely missed this. But that's just one of those places that is kind of nebulously north. It's the most northernmost dwarven hold that is, well, it's gone now because Valkia came and helped Botvar getting rid of that. And there are a lot of places that are either nebulous or, you know, nebulous in location, or they're just retcons out of the maps. A good example of that is like Silver Pinnacle. We never had like a good place exactly for where that was until Total War Warhammer 2 that actually placed it on the map. Otherwise, it was always somewhere between the very north of the mountains all the way to Karak, I think. It could be anywhere alongside the mountain range before that. So anyway, she helps out and kills all the dwarfs, and she then invents something called a blood raven, which is it's just a blood eagle. It's just a blood eagle where you just rip up the back with like the ribs, and you just take out the lungs like wings. And Khorne is like, hell yeah, that's pretty metal. But you know, it's just one of those really the things that just didn't happen as much even during Viking days. But this is a cool new tradition that the Norskins now have to please Khorne. So that's cultural effects. That's neat. And then she goes to raid Nordland. Nordland they're not really giving a lot of resistance to her huge warband. The warband is just kind of swooping in and raiding everything, and very likely it's that the lecture counts and nobility of Nordland just kind of thinks that it's closing in at the end of summer, and summer is the raiding season for Norskins, so they're just kind of, you know, letting that trickle out. But there's this one dude called Harold, and Harold is like a really cool dude. He just gets all the fishermen in, he gets all the boat hooks, fashions them into hellbards, and tries to fight. It doesn't go super well. Valkia sees him across the waters and throws Sleipnir and just smashes his boat, and he goes down into the icy waters. But you know, he tried, at least. That's more than anyone else did. And when things are looking really, really bleak, a dwarven steamship comes in, smashes everyone, because it's funny how even art mimics real life in that regard, that a longboat can't really do anything against a metal warship. So that's not very good for Valkia. And that's kind of the end of that raid, that entire raiding arc of, you know, that summer, I suppose. Valkia can't really die, so, you know, she's a demon princess now. But, yeah. Harold, however, survives. He actually washes up on the shores, and he's cold and confused. But just a couple of months later, he's trying to go over to he's just traveling to the capital of Norland. Talk about being a hero, I guess. This is just a couple of months afterwards, by the way. And he gets killed, and it's not really explained why. Could it be angry cultists being angry that Valkia's raid didn't get their cool finale, or it could just be the nobility of Norland being angry that some dude tried to be a hero and made them all look bad. Who knows? So just the way of people who aren't famous enough or good enough fighters to survive anything. Well, survive everything, I guess is the better word for that. Oh, you know what? A really cool thing also is that she actually goes and gets to test Mortkin. Lord Mortkin is a Chaos Champion who was just about becoming Ever Chosen, if I remember correctly. He's this huge dude with... he's just really strong. He basically goes and does tests of strength with a two-headed Chaos Giant and managed to wrestle that down, which is really, really cool. He tests a lot of people. Corn will basically see somebody really cool and be like, hey, can't you go and see if that's actually a cool person? And she'll go there and test this. And Mortkin is actually the first person this time that actually manages to fight her to a standstill. So Lord Mortkin, very cool. Also a good story is when Archaon is trying to become the 13th Ever Chosen. He's like having a little bit of a standstill, having a little bit of trouble with some Dark Elves. So he rips out a Druchii Heart, tries to offer it to an altar for Corn. Corn thinks, hey, that's pretty neat. This is a cool battle. The sky just gets turned red. Red lightning bolt strikes everywhere. Valkia comes out, just goes straight for a sorceress riding a black dragon up in the air. She managed to fight that one, chop her head off, and then she fights the dragon up in the air. It ends with her ripping the throats out from the dragon. So that's pretty neat as well. Later on, she just dives in, angrily dive bombs enemy front lines. Archaon uses that as momentum. He just charges in, finishes it off, and just wins thanks to that, I guess. And Valkia just vanishes again after that. So, I mean, like, she does some pretty goddamn cool stuff, really metal stuff. But with that being said, we're going on into the end times. What should you do during the end times? Well, here's the TLDR for us. Essentially, she tries to get all of the Norscan tribes to follow. Some Norscan tribes aren't very happy about this. They don't recognize that Archaon is the Ever-Chosen. Some people don't really think that the Ever-Chosen should be a thing.
Quiet! I order you to be quiet!
Order I think he is.
I'm your king!
Well, I didn't vote for you.
But she manages to get them all together. And then she goes and kills off the northernmost dwarven holds, such as Karak-Drak, Schuhtrakten, and Kraka Ravenvaken. I don't know, it's just, these Norscan holds always sound so weird. Like Schuhtrakten just means like the place by the sea, and like Trakten. And Ravenvaken is just like, I don't know, it's probably like the waking of the fox or something. I don't know, that's probably not actually a word, or maybe it's supposed to be like raven wake, I suppose. Anyway, the cool things that happen there is basically that in the Battle of Schuhtrakten, there's these really cool Norscan mercenaries that are werebears, the Bearmen of Urslo, led by Beorg Bearstruck, and they fight for the dwarves as mercenaries. One of them dies, and one of them is a werebear and just guards the other one's body for a very, very long time, and she doesn't manage to actually, you know, do anything against that one. He's too strong. That's up until Scarbrand just dives in from the sky, essentially. He doesn't have wings, I guess he just like drops from the sky and just kills him off. After all the dwarven holds are gone, they travel to Nagaroth, home of the Druchii. She gets half of the forces of the Chaos Forces to lead, and her forces go to Grond. Grond is canonically the home of Morathi. Marathi and her hag sorceresses managed to kind of inflict magic damage on them as well, because Khorne are a little bit like dwarves. Like magic don't really work damage on them. Like they have some magic resistance, but they managed to make that work anyway. But in the end, Malekith has been off on his own shenanigans, let's say. And he's finally coming back, and he's seeing that this is happening. So he basically tells Marathi, "You should probably just evacuate. Like that's you can't win versus this. We can't win versus this. So let's just evacuate." Yes, Valkia does eventually get Grant, and then they move on to Nagoront, Malekith City. She, together with Wulfric, siege this place. Now, I'm not going to go into what happens in the battles and cool shit that Wulfric does, because Wulfric is pretty goddamn badass in this battle. Valkia gets to fight. Now, Valkia gets to fight Ron Darkhand, the leader of the Blackguards, the personal lease army of Malekith. Now, he's a pretty cool dude. He is very, very good at fighting, because essentially to become a Blackguard, you get indoctrinated as a child, essentially. You know, when you're still like an actual kid, and then you just get to fight, and you get to be super duper duper loyal to Malekith. And this dude has been serving for the longest time, and he's an elf, so you know he's been serving and fighting for a very, very long time. It's you know, when I think about it, I really should check out how long, because that can be thousands of years that he's actually been doing this. All right, well, anyway, usually they don't survive that long though if you're a Druki. Anyway, Ron manages to win versus Valkia. Valkia is not seen after this, but once again, she's a demon princess. She can't really die. She hangs out in the Age of Sigmar later on as well. I mean, you need something special to actually kill demon princes and princesses and stuff like that, and greater demons. You don't just do that, you know. It's you need some really powerful artifacts, and he does not have that. He just wins that fight, essentially, which is still really goddamn cool. And there you have it. The lore of Valkia the Gorequeen. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making this. It took way longer than I thought it would be. I had to go and reread some books. And, well, it was fun anyway. So if you like this, you can put out a comment, put a like. If you actually went through all of it, type for the Gorequeen in the comments somewhere. Let's hope that Creative Assembly, when they put her into the game, will have that she can actually be summoned by the cults eventually, at least. Not a release, it seems, but let's hope. That's it for me. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see your cute faces later.